Hello everybody and welcome to the Daily Splatt. Today is video number 5 in our series of 20 reviewing the English Premier League season 2011-2012. Today we are talking about Chelsea. Now, Chelsea presents something of a difficult season for someone to review. If we were focusing purely on the Premier League, then you would have to say it has been a failure. And obviously these are Premier League review videos, so it's obviously tricky. However, you can't not talk about what they did in the Cups. Anyway, focusing just on the Premier League for the moment, they ended up finishing 6th, which is very, very surprising. Of course, this is the side that 2 years ago won the double, winning the title and the FA Cup under Carlo Ancelotti. And then the previous season, they finished 2nd to Manchester United, admittedly 9 points behind by the end of it all. But, they stayed in the title race for, it went to the second last game of the season. So, they were in that title race for some time. And then they finished 6th this season. Obviously, a new manager came in after Ancelotti was sacked 12 months ago. It was Andre Villas-Boas, or AVB, as he became known, came in and took over. He was a very young manager, only 33 years old, younger than some of the players. Same age as Drogba and Lampard and that sort of thing. Anyway, he came in, he had all these new ideas and, was meant to bring in this attacking football. And, they brought in a couple of players. They already had Torres and Luiz in there, but they brought in the likes of Juan Mata, who came in, and, he actually was one of the highlights of the season for them on a player level. He was absolutely fantastic. And another highlight for Chelsea has to be Daniel Sturridge, who, at least in the first couple of months, really did quite well in the Chelsea team, and was playing fantastically for them. But it was all going awry. They were losing silly games, and they lost some big games as well. They lost 3-1 at Old Trafford in a very strange game where both sides missed loads of chances. That was the game with the infamous Fernando Torres miss when he had an open goal and could have made it 3-2 at that point. That happened. There was also the surprising 5-3 loss at home to Arsenal in what was, in my opinion, probably one of the best games of the season. In fact, I thought it was the best game of the season. Just from an entertainment value, it was a sort of neutral in that match. So Chelsea were just a little bit all over the place. They ended up going on such a bad run of form that AVB was sacked round about February-March time. Basically, what had happened was they were losing in the Champions League. They were 3-1 down the first leg against Napoli. They'd been knocked out of the Carling Cup, and they then got beat 1-0 by West Brom at the Hawthorns. Obviously, the owner Roman Abramovich had decided that was enough, sacked him, and brought in Roberto Di Matteo to take over. Di Matteo was previously the West Brom manager and was the assistant manager at Chelsea. He was just told, just manage him for the rest of the season. And he turned things around slightly. The objective was to finish in the top 4 so that they would qualify for Champions League football, and they didn't. They finished 6th. And so if you were looking at it from just those 38 Premier League games, you would have to say Chelsea were a failure. However, they finished up with 2 trophies. The FA Cup, which they seem to win every second year as things stand. They won the FA Cup, beating Liverpool 2-1 in the final. Goals for Ramirez and Didier Drogba. Always seems to score for Chelsea. Andy Carroll getting Liverpool's consolation goal. But they also won the Champions League, the European Cup, for the first time. And this is a huge deal. And, Chelsea, pretty much, it's hard to say. They did fluke their way to it, but at the same time, they showed a lot of grit and determination. These are good players who've been on the verge before. You don't reach 6 semi-finals without, being a very good group of players. And obviously, the previous final they got to, they did only lose on penalties. This time, they won it on penalties against a much better, on the day, Bayern Munich side, with the exception of finishing. Munich were, technically the better team. They played the better football, but they didn't win. So, that's how it goes. But Chelsea making that final, they were remarkable. I mean, obviously 3-1 down to Napoli in the first leg. Di Matteo comes in. They end up winning 4-1 after extra time to go through, with Branislav Ivanovic getting the all-important winning goal during the 30 minutes of extra time. In the quarterfinals, they knocked out Benfica. That was, two hard-fought victories for Chelsea, but they were the better side in those games. Then, of course, Barca in the semis. Barcelona, knocked them out a couple of times, including that semi-final 3 years ago when Drogba went off and swore at the cameras. Well, Chelsea won the home leg 1-0. Didier Drogba with the goal at Stamford Bridge. They then went away to Barcelona and drew 2-2 to advance to the final. This was no ordinary draw, though. They were 2-0 down heading into half-time, with John Terry having been sent off for being a prat. But thankfully for them, Ramirez pulled a goal back just before half-time, and then right at the end of the game, on the counter-attack, Fernando Torres rounded Victor Valdez, tapped it in. Chelsea are off to Munich. They played Munich, they drew 1-1, took it to penalties, and got there in the end. Now, winning that European Cup is huge for Chelsea. This is what Roman Abramovich has been all about, and now he's finally achieved winning the European Cup. He can move on to the next stage of his plan for Chelsea, which is to turn them into the most exciting team to watch. And to be fair, Chelsea have not been a great side to watch in the last couple of seasons, and the last year, 2 years, it's been they have flattered to deceive. They've had cracking players. Juan Mata is certainly somebody I've really enjoyed watching this season. Didier Drogba, who has now left the club, is another player who always looked good. But this was an older group of players who just need to be replaced and start to rebuild essentially. They've already indicated that they're starting to do this with the likes of Hazard and Hulk, very strongly linked with coming in. In fact, Hazard, you can pretty much say, is there basically. He said, "I'm going to join the Champions League winner," on his little Twitter thing, and Hulk is believed to be highly tipped to move over. Porto quite keen to move him on and make quite a lot of money from this incredible player. But there still isn't a manager there. Di Matteo still hasn't been offered the job full time. It's believed that they want Pep Guardiola to come in. Chelsea is a bit of an interesting mess, which, we'll find out how they go over the coming weeks. Of course, Euro 2012 happening means that that will be, all these transfer speculations will be sort of sidetracked by some international football, which starts later this week, which should be very good. But yes, Chelsea, they're all over the place. A little bit like me today. They're just all over the place this last season, but this will be remembered as one of the best seasons in the club's history, because they won the FA Cup, which is fantastic, but they won the Champions League and did qualify for European football at the expense of Tottenham Hotspur as well, so they'll get some enjoyment out of that. So, in terms of giving the season a mark, which I realised I didn't do for Bolton yesterday, but they got relegated, so F. For Chelsea, the overall mark has to be a D+. Because this is, it would be an F were it not for the fact that they won both the FA Cup and the Champions League. The fact of the matter is, as brilliant as it was for them winning those tournaments, they're knockout tournaments, and they are, the winners of those tournaments are more lucky than the team that wins the league. Generally, teams that win league titles, it's very unlikely that you'll be lucky 38 times over a season. Whereas, you can be lucky in 4 or 5 games, certainly, but, over a season, it's generally the best side that wins it. Whereas, you look at a cup, you can be lucky 3 times, like Chelsea were. The match against Napoli, the second leg, the second leg against Barcelona, and indeed the final. And look, you can win it with, obviously, other performances to back them up. So, all in all, the league season is what I have to focus on here, though, and it is a bit of a failure of a season. That said, you can't say the whole season has been a failure, because they did win the European Cup. So, D+. If I was feeling more charitable, maybe a C-, but I think D+. There is going to have to be some serious pulling up of socks at Stamford Bridge next season. Right, that's all for today. Tomorrow, Everton, we'll be looking at them and seeing how Moyes' boys did. Okay, that is all for today. Speak to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.